Hey, Tiffany.
Hi, how are you?
I am wonderful. For everyone online, I know we're still waiting for a few more folks to join. But as you join, I just want to say welcome to the Principal Minds podcast live show. This is our inaugural show. And I am just incredibly excited to be doing this with you and with everyone that will be joining this episode live for the first time. And right now we have one person that has joined. So hello there, if you're listening. We're probably going to stall a little bit just to give some more folks some time to join. Um, and I'll probably share here on Instagram so that folks on Instagram can know that we are also live right now.
I'll
Welcome as you're
repost.
joining. Welcome, Tiffany. So tell me, Um, actually, before I get started, for everyone joining, I just want to say again, thanks for joining. The Principal Minds podcast is a show that is designed to, engage in conversations that reveal, uncover the principles of turning vision to reality. We've been doing this for about 2 years now, and have used this opportunity on this platform to share stories of people who have taking it upon themselves to take the first step towards making whatever they call a vision, right? Whether it's a vision related to their career or to their personal life or, to their business, a reality. This podcast in its own was a vision for 4 years. And it took a car accident for me to say, you know what? If today was my last day, everything I had as a vision or as a dream would have been a whole waste, right? Um, and I made a decision to just, start checking off that list, no matter what it took, no matter how imperfect it is. The goal was take an action towards a direction. And it's so magical how when you decide that you're going to do something, everything around you, the universe just starts working in your favor. It's literally amazing how that works. And people will just be willing to support you, and I think it really taking that bold step and courage to say, I am going to do this to make this happen. And that's what this podcast is about. um, and I'm hoping that as you join the conversation today, for anyone who is going through challenges with looking for a job right now, whether you've been applying for months or weeks, or for some people, from what I've heard so far, about a year and a half, and haven't found a job or haven't gotten an interview, or got through an interview, series of interviews, and for whatever reason didn't get hired, this is the episode that we would have a conversation with our guest today on how you can increase your chances of getting hired in today's job market. So I'm incredibly excited for this conversation. And Tiffany, I could not even have thought of someone better to have this conversation with. I've had the honor of working with you in the place where you worked at previously. And I'm incredibly excited that you, as a recruiting manager, would be here with us and share your thoughts with us so that we all can learn from what you as a recruiter would expect us to do when we are applying to get a job. So Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I feel like, oh my gosh, I was just nodding so aggressively while you were talking because you were really dropping some gems just in the intro. And I was like writing them down because I was like, I was going to say that. I was going to say that. And so I'm so excited for us to have this conversation. And thank you so much for having me. And I also want to say, I really respect what you're doing. I'm honored that you would ask me. And thank you. So excited to be here.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Now, a quick, just few notes for those tuning in here online. Um, you would notice in the description of this episode that our email address is kind of made available to you. The whole purpose of that, and you see the note attached to that as well, is that if you have a resume that you would want us to review after this show, just send your name, the resume that you want us to review, and the type of roles that you're looking for, and a summary of how you intend to make an impact in whatever role that you're seeking, right? We would take some time to review your whatever information you share with us, and follow up with you as needed. Again, I just want to share a disclosure that is no guarantee that anything will come out of that exercise, but the thought process is that we would have an opportunity to review your resume, and if time permits, we can share some feedback and also share your resume with people in our network, so that if there are companies that might be interested in the skills you have, they have access to your information and can reach out to you. Use the comment section, share thoughts, show us some love, like thumbs up, let us know where you're calling in from or where you're joining from, so that way, we just feel your energy as we go through this conversation here today. All right, Tiffany, tell us, what has made you smile in the last 7 days? When you reflect on this week and you think about,
Oof.
I had this moment when it just brought so much joy to my heart. What was that moment for you? What has made you smile?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question. I was listening to some of your other episodes and I was like, oh gosh, what's he going to ask me? So, this past week was my best friend's birthday, actually. And so,
Oh,
yes, we got to celebrate together. We went to the spa with her sisters and one of our other friends. And it was just a great time to like really relax. And I am so blessed and so fortunate to have a community and to have friends that I've been friends with for, I think this year makes 20 years that we've been friends. And
wow,
so
that's
to
amazing.
exactly, and to just, grow with people and continue to be able to spend birthdays together is a blessing. And thinking about it makes me smile. And it was a really joyous time to celebrate her. And then also plug for me, my birthday's on Monday. So just thinking about all the things I'm
Oh,
going to do, is also making me smile as well.
well, happy birthday in advance. I
Thank
will say
you.
it's amazing having people, and just such a joy having people that you've had in your life for a long time, and really make a difference even without doing much.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
Just
you don't
people
have
that
to
you can be
try.
yourself.
Exactly. You just have to be you, and that's enough. It's
It,
amazing. Carrie,
truly.
tuning in from Baltimore. So good to have you here, Carrie. Abdelaram, thank you so much for joining as well. I see you here. Thanks for the love. All right, so let's get started. Tiffany, I've been thinking about where to start with this conversation, and quite frankly, it's been tough for me because over the past couple of weeks and months, I would open up my LinkedIn page, and most of what I see, my top three announcements, are typically people sharing that they have been laid off or that they have been thinking about making a transition and have been applying to jobs and just haven't been able to hear back. I want to find out from you, from what I saw yesterday, a stat that I saw yesterday on Labor of Statistics. I think they shared about 7.4 million people do not have jobs. What do you think is causing the lack of jobs in general in the current job market from your perspective?
Yeah, this is something that hits home. I've had several friends over the last year and a half who have been laid off, unfortunately. And so I'm right there with you, seeing the post, seeing it, in my inbox on my text messages. And so I just first want to say, like, I sympathize with anybody going through this because it is a tough job market. Competing against 7.4 million people is a lot to manage. And so I just want to say, like, I sympathize and I respect what you're going through and all the feelings that come with that. To your question of what do I think is causing it, I think a number of things, right? And so I think when we think about the rise of AI, right, and how that is impacting some jobs in the fact of like, okay, is this necessarily a job that we need to pay 40 hours a week to do? Or can AI do some of those tasks and we now have reduced this job to 20 hours? So maybe it's a full-time job that is now a part-time job, or it's we have other salaried employees that could take that work on. So I think some of it is that. I think also what I've seen is a gap in entry level. And so there's a need for like higher skill sets that people aren't necessarily adapting with in their current roles, right? Like if you think about somebody who's had a job for 10, 15 years, it's like, what are you doing to upskill yourself to kind of avoid that happening to you? Not saying that people are that this is happening to people because they're not skilled, but are you evolving with the market? And then I also think just capitalism, right? Like companies can, so they will, right? And so an easy way to cut a cost is to eliminate a salary, right? And so, but they're not thinking about the people that are being impacted, because they're thinking about their bottom dollar. So I think it's a multitude of things. I think those are the things that come to mind immediately, and I'm sure I could probably find other reasons why as well.
AI seems to be the trend here, and probably one of the most um, popular reasons why a lot of companies are, or at least the reasons they give, as to, the cuts, as they leverage AI to, streamline some of their operations, where if you were a staff level doing data entry work, now you have a whole bot doing that essentially. And so I guess my other question right now is, as you think about upskilling, which is something that you shared, before you even tell us about upskilling, just tell us a little bit more about your background, where you work, and I would say really the impacts that you hope to make in the work that you do, and then transition to sharing with us from your perspective and your experience in the company you work at, but also looking at the various resumes that you're seeing and the gap that exists from a skill set perspective. What are some of the skills and qualities employers are prioritizing in 2025 that job seekers are not fully aware of?
Sure. So I'll start in the beginning. So I started my career in higher education. So I spent close to 7 years working in admissions and college orientation, as well as family programming. And then I said, I don't want to do that anymore. And I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends, and he told me to look into campus recruiting. And so I did. And that is where I spent 3 years of my career at EY recruiting entry level college students to internships as well as entry level jobs. And then most recently, at the end of June, I joined a law firm. So I've been there for, I guess, going on 3 months now. And so I spent a lot of my time recruiting and kind of explaining the process to people. And so to
Mhm.
your question around the skills gap, I think first, I want to highlight that most people aren't aware of how to articulate how their skills are transferable, right? So
Mhm.
when I think of somebody who is a teacher, right, it's easy for them to say, like, taught seventh grade history, all right? But it's like, okay, well, when I break down the transferable skills in that, it's like you're public speaking, you're lesson planning, you're preparing reports, you're working with data, right? Because as a teacher, right, you have to maintain some sort of accreditation, right? Your students have to be passing classes. So you're ensuring accuracy, right? So when I think about how people are phrasing their transferable skills, as a recruiter, I want to know that you know how your skill sets are transferable. So I mentioned I worked with college students, right? A basic entry level job like fast food, right? If you tell me you worked at Chick-fil-A, I know what a person who works at Chick-fil-A does, right? You're probably manning the cash register. You're probably working with the fries and the chicken sandwiches, right? But you could articulate that as you're working in a fast-paced environment. You are creating a positive atmosphere, right? Customer service. You, Charles, work in a client service um, job, right? And so those are transferable skills, right? Because you still have to anticipate needs, right? You know that if somebody is going to order whatever, you know the follow-up questions to ask them, right? And so I think that there's that skill gap of articulating the skills that you do have. But
Mhm.
then I think a lot of things in like critical thinking, right? Like how are you highlighting that? And I'll give my first kind of like resume tip. When writing your resume, the things I tell people is you got to ask yourself, what is the skill I'm trying to showcase here? How can I quantify that skill? And then what's the impact of me having that skill? Right. And
Mhm.
so, I can say on my resume that I'm a great public speaker, but I could also say on my resume that I've spoken to groups of 50 to 500, leading to 600 applications, leading to a class size of X, right? So that's the skill, the quantity, and the impact of having that. And then I think the last part of the question you asked me was, what do I hope to kind of leave an impact? And when I think about just my jobs as historically to my core, I think my personal mission is to be a bridge, right? Like I want to be a person who connects people to their next thing, right? Whether that's an internship, whether that's a job. And so that is really what fuels what I do day in and day out.
That is beautiful. Being a bridge. And that is exactly what you're doing here, even through the conversations we're having here. So some of the things I'm hearing. So you're saying the ability to articulate the skills that you do have. So I want to share this as a reminder to everyone. The main fact that you're not getting hired doesn't mean that you're incapable. I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that. It's more so, how do you communicate what you do know how to do in a way that it resonates with the people that are hiring for the role that you are aiming to get, right? And that's an important skill, a very critical skill that is necessary, whether you are in a recruiting process trying to, get hired, or whether you're actively working on whatever it is you're working on. Is how do you articulate the value that you currently have, so that way you can actually have access and gain, leverage to achieve or gain certain opportunities that you're aiming for. So I'm hearing ability to articulate your transferable skills into critical thinking. What other skills, a little bit more on the technical side, maybe, do you think that folks should start investing more in, if that's something you're noticing isn't there based on the resumes that you're looking at so far?
Sure. And I do want to caveat everything I'm saying with being a recruiter is, I don't want to compare it to being a doctor because I'm definitely not saving lives, but I think about, or like
Never
even like a
know.
lawyer. Fair enough. But when I think about like, so I have a friend, she's a doctor, and she's like, when you tell people you're a doctor, they're like, oh, can you look at my rash? Can you look at this? Right. And it's like, there are different doctors for different things.
Mm,
Similarly, there are different recruiters for different things. And so as a recruiter in the industries that I've worked in, I'm trained to look at very certain skill sets. And so my advice to anybody listening would be, find a recruiter in the industry that you're looking for, because they're going to be trained to look for those skill sets. So I do want to have that caveat that it's different, right? And also, like, entry level recruiting is different than executive level recruiting. And so I just want to highlight that there are some differences there. But I would say general skills that are transferable that I've just kind of seen across the market or across various industries. AI, 100%. Any sort of upskilling you can do, right? And so there's LinkedIn courses. There's a Microsoft course where they just kind of break down what AI is, how to use it, how not to use it, right? Because I think that's another thing, ethical AI use, but that's another conversation for another day. So that is 100% it. And then again, this is going to vary by industry, but I would say if you're looking for a job, look through several job postings and see what are the skill sets. So one of my friends right now, she's looking for a digital marketing role. So I've been sending her roles, but I've been noticing, okay, a lot of people are wanting search engine optimization. A lot of people
mm,
are wanting comfortability with like cookies and advertising and those types of things that's not necessarily in my wheelhouse of what I recruit for, but it's going to be necessary for her to have those skills and for her to showcase those skills. When I think about the industry that I'm in now, law, writing, researching, those are skills that I want to be able to see. But I think also at the end of the day, the transferable skills, those quote unquote soft skills, are never going to hurt anybody. But I think the more technical ones are definitely going to vary by industry and job role that you're looking for. But I think also being able to show that you're a willingness to learn those things is also going to
mm,
help you. So one of the questions that I got when I interviewed at EY was like, what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge? I was like, y'all very clearly in this job description said Excel, and that is the skill that I'm working on, right? Like I'm
mm,
comfortable enough with it, but I could always learn more. Here's the ways that I would plan to learn more. And even for like Excel, right? If you're not comfortable with it, follow Miss Excel on Instagram, right? It's 30-second videos. They're bite sized. You can kind of consume and dive in deeper later if you need to, right? So understanding your industry and what's on the rise in your industry is going to be the key to making a strong skill set.
got it. Got it. Really helpful there. Now let's talk about mindsets. So there are two things I want to dive into. One is mindset. How do you mentally prepare for the journey of looking for a job? That's one. Two, when our resume is ready to go, right? Um, what is it that we need to double check before we actually hit submit, right? When we are applying for a job. I think those are some of the things I want to be able to touch on before we get any further. But we can start with your perspective on how we should be preparing our mind, the mindset that we need to have going into this journey for job seeking.
Yeah, I think first understanding that it is a journey, right? And I think a lot of people going into the job market kind of think, okay, this should take 1 to 2 months, right? And as you stated in the beginning, sometimes it takes longer than that. And so I think being prepared to be resilient through the process to get to where you want to be is part one, right? Understanding that it may happen overnight, but it may not happen overnight. So be ready to kind of go through processes. And I will say, the interview process can be draining, especially if you're, doing 2, 3 interviews a day, then, it gets draining. So making sure that you're keeping your energy where it needs to be to make the best impression. And then I would also say, sharing with your network what you need, right? I think for me, community is so important. And I try to, again, be a bridge to everybody in my life, whether I'm at work or in my personal life. And so sharing with your community, hey, I'm looking for roles in XYZ. If you know anybody, if you come across anything, I think that also helps because you're not in this alone, right? Like you said in the beginning, the people that know you want to help you. They want to pour into you, right? And so if you're thinking that you're doing it alone, you're not. Reach out to somebody out there who wants to help you. I think those are my biggest things around the mindset. It's just being ready for how long it could possibly take and what are you doing to share with your community what you need. And then you mentioned the resume. Once it's ready to go, what do you need to check? This is my favorite question. Check that it's consistent throughout, right? You don't know how many resumes I've read that say, I have a strong attention to detail. And I'm like, do you really? Because you're missing 8 commas and 3 periods, right? And so having somebody else read it, right? So I always tell everyone, if you are ready to submit your resume, have somebody glance over it, somebody that you trust, because they're going to catch things that you just naturally aren't going to catch because you've been looking at your resume for who knows how long, right? And so just taking a step back, making sure with clear eyes that it has everything you want, that it is logical, that it's typo proof, because those are the things that we as recruiters catch. I also want to call out that recruiters probably spend 20 to 30 seconds up to a minute looking at your resume. It's a very fast glance when we look at resumes. And so you're really just wanting me to want to know more, right? So I should look at Charles's resume and have that job description and be like, okay, we asked for 5 years experience. Boom, I can see that he has 5 years experience. We asked for this skill set. Boom, boom, boom. I can see he has it. Okay, great. Now I know that I want to at least give Charles a phone call because he meets these qualifications that we've outlined in the job description.
I see. Really, really helpful. So from your perspective, looking at the typical standard structure of a resume, what would you say is the most important section of the resume that gets the recruiter's attention before they go any further?
Yeah. And again, this is going to vary by industry, right? So if I'm thinking of somebody who is entry level, right? Somebody fresh out of college or somebody seeking an internship, that education piece going to be top of mind for me, right? Because I said that we need somebody who graduated or who's going to graduate in May of 2026. If you don't graduate in May of 2026, immediately ineligible. But then if I'm talking about somebody who may have more experience or who is more seasoned in their career, I might want to see a skill profile at the top, right? If you're looking for a more technical role, show me that Java skills, show me that Python, right? So maybe that's at the top and your education's at the bottom, right? So I think it's really just making sure that when you're reading the job description, that it's clear to this recruiter why you're applying, right? If they've asked for, but I do also want to backtrack that a little bit when I think about years of experience. If I have 5 years of experience and a job asks for 6, I'm going to apply. And I've also read statistically that women, and especially like women of color, are easy to count themselves out when they don't meet one of those marks. But I always say, let them tell you no. Don't tell yourself no, right? So if
Mm,
it's one thing that you're missing, or maybe you're like, I don't know if it counts, like, let me tell you that it doesn't count. Don't tell yourself that it doesn't count. But if it's more regimented in like graduation year or something like that, then take that into a little bit more consideration.
got it. Got it. So if you are fresh out of college, applying for your first job, your education definitely very important to have, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably one of the main criteria. And then if you are if you are an experienced professional, then your experience or your skill set, right? Like the summary of your skills would probably be one of the most important, and of course, the years of experience.
Yes, I would agree. I would summarize that way. And then, excuse me, I would also say summaries kind of at the top of the page, especially
Mm,
if you're planning to make a career pivot, or if it wouldn't be extremely obvious to me why somebody with a computer science degree is applying to a role that we ask for like psychology degrees,
mm,
right? But if you're doing something that combines those things, explain that to me in like a summary, but you don't want that summary to eat up too much space. And so
yeah,
playing with your formatting, your fonts, making sure that it's still readable, but that you can tell us as much about yourself in that one page.
got it. Got it. Makes sense. All right. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. So let's talk about, and I don't want to spend too much time on resume here because I think there are so many resources out there on how to create a resume. So I want to focus now
Okay.
on,
Can I
yes,
drop a
go
piece
ahead. Go
of
ahead.
advice about
Sure.
that? There are so many pieces of advice about resumes, but again, I just want to caution everybody to use some discernment, right? So I've seen
Mm,
resumes with like color and like all the things, and I'm like, okay, like if you're a marketing person and you're like, you want to show your ability with design, link your portfolio. Don't kind of clunk up your resume with boxes and squares and all different types of things, right? Showcase this that way versus muddying your resume. Because if a job is using some sort of like applicant tracking system or something that's going to scan the resume, it might not be able to read it. And so I think
mm.
when focusing on your resume, prioritize readability above most things. And when you're using those resume resources, make sure they're credible, make sure they're good, make sure they make sense for what you're trying to do.
Now, when I am done with my resume and I decide that I'm ready to upload, fill out the form online and hit apply, what happens the moment someone hits submit application?
Yeah, so I can speak to where I've worked. And the places that I've worked, we don't have a reader or anything like that. So what happens is somebody on the other end of that is like, oh, great, Charles applied. And let's review his resume, right? So that's a person that is going to review your resume in the places that I've worked. I know that other companies kind of use different things to kind of weed people out, right? So things like if it's an entry level role, if they need a higher GPA, something like that might weed you out before if it's unavailable or if it's doesn't meet their criteria. And then we're comparing with what are we looking for, right? So if I posted for a role that requires 5 years of experience, my first question is, are you close to that 5 years? If you have 1 year, next, right? So again, it's very much we're trained to look for certain things, and then people get moved forward, and then people get negated or communicated that we will not be moving forward.
I see. I
I
see.
should have flipped that question to you. What do you think happens when you hit
I've always
apply?
been curious. I've really been curious because I've heard, so this is what I've heard from a couple of people. They submit their application and in minutes they receive an automated, email saying that they were denied.
Yeah.
Or they submit their resume or they submit the application, and then for whatever reason, maybe within 24 hours, sometimes between 24 hours to 2 or 3 weeks, they don't hear back from anyone, and then eventually hear back saying that they have been denied, right? So I've
Yeah.
always been curious about what happens within that time. First of all, those that receive automated, um, rejections, I'm assuming that that's an ATS tool performing an
Yes.
initial read and then telling them, hey, you guys don't meet the basic qualifications. correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I would think if it happens what feels like instantaneously, then
Mhm.
it's probably something is misaligned, like between what you've submitted and what their system has been trained to read, and you've received a communication. But for the ones that take longer, I will say, like, again, where I worked, we're
Mhm.
talking about thousands of applications. And so sometimes it really does take, you know, a week, 2 weeks for somebody to actually like sit down and review your resume for the role.
Mm.
And so, give your recruiters grace, friends. Like, I promise we're trying to get through them as fast as possible. But then it's like, you don't want to reject somebody too fast because of the fear of they think that this is an ATS. But it's like, if I get somebody's application, I'm quick to be like, hey, it's not going to be a fit at this time. Um, but it is a balancing act of what feels like we gave your application the due diligence of, or the clearest kind. And it doesn't matter that you submitted this 10 minutes ago, because even if it was 2 weeks from now, you're going to get the same communication. So
Mm. That
balancing
makes
act.
sense. That makes sense. So talk me through what happens when you have multiple candidates that have the same or similar qualifications, right? What specific factors make one person stand out over the other?
Yeah, I would say if I'm looking at two kind of very comparable resumes, at that stage, I'm going to either phone screen or put them both through the interview process and kind of let that play itself out, right? Because sometimes people put themselves on paper and they look one way, and then you call them up and it's a different conversation. I had a conversation earlier today with a candidate, and I could tell that it was like he was on our website as we were talking, and his answers didn't really give the energy or the enthusiasm of somebody kind of looking in this stage.
Mm.
And so we were like, okay, like, while you do have a great resume, it's like it doesn't seem like you really want to work here. And so it's like, okay, we're going to move on with somebody else, even
Yeah.
though on paper you have great qualifications.
Interesting. Interesting. So typically you just put them up for an interview and just let it play out. But again, if you
Yeah.
have thousands of people and you maybe have 10, 20 people that almost have similar experiences, would you have to interviews with all
Yeah.
20?
So, oh no. Well, first I would think I would think about the need, and so
Okay.
like depending on the type of job that you're applying to, right? Let's say it's an internship where we're planning to hire 30 people. Then yes, I would interview. If I had 30 people that I needed to hire, I'd probably interview 40, right?
Mm.
Because some of those people just aren't going to work out. But then if I had 10 people and I had two positions, I'm going to go through those and, screen them. And then I'm going to put up my best two for those interviews, see how they go, and then kind of triage down. Right. And so maybe if you're in a process and you feel like, oh, this is taking a long time, maybe you're that number 3 or number 4 candidate.
Mm.
And that's okay. I will be completely transparent and say, at my role, I don't think I was their top candidate. Like, I don't think I was number 1, but hey, I'm here. I got the job. They like me. And so I think sometimes people get like, think that's a hit to the confidence, but we talked about it. 7.4 million people looking for jobs. We're going to be having to pick needles out of haystacks here, and like really be splitting hairs when it comes down to figuring out who is the best fit for this role.
Got it. Got it. Okay. What are some of the common job mistakes that job seekers are making right now in 2025? I know we talked about resumes, we talked about a few things. Is there anything that you're seeing that, you as a recruiter would hope and wish that people would do differently in 2025 as they are applying for jobs, especially in this current job market?
Yeah, I think in this current job market, understanding that we're very much so in a place where the jobs have the upper hand because there are so many people looking for jobs. And so they kind of, for worse, probably do what they want in the
Yeah.
process. The
Hmm.
jobs do. And so I think what I would want people to stop doing is applying to jobs that aren't a fit, because it's slowing the process down. You're gonna then get a negate, and then it's gonna um be a hit to the confidence, right? And so I think what I would want to see people do is track their jobs better. I get a lot of like aimless LinkedIn messages where people are just like,
Mm,
"Hey, I'm looking for a job in XYZ." And I'm like, I don't know anything about that, right? And so I think applying with intention is something that will set you up with success. I know that if you've been laid off, it might get a little harder to do that, right? If you're going through a savings account and you're like, I just need a job, but applying with intention, applying, networking with intention, right? Using your resources in a way that sets you up for success. And there's not anything like that I'm like hard and fast stop doing that, but I think just more so acting with intention, tracking, having those strong organization skills within your job search process will be better off for the job seeker.
when you say apply with intention, what does that look like?
Yeah. So applying with intention. So okay. So earlier this year, we kind of know that diversity, equity, inclusion jobs kind of were few and hard to find, right? And so asking yourself, like, okay, well, where do my skills pivot? What makes sense for me to do next versus let me just apply to any job because my job no longer exists, right? Like
Mhm.
figuring out what are those intentional pieces of your job that you want to continue to do and what makes sense to do that. Or where can you find the pockets of what you previously did that you enjoyed? Where can you find that in a new role? So
Mhm.
finding things that fit and make sense for what you want to do.
I see. And then networking with intention, considering that people send LinkedIn messages, especially during desperate times, people just want to get their name out there and want to connect with someone. How do you network with intention in this very digital stage right now?
Yeah, yeah. I think one, like thinking about what does this person do at their role, right? So my LinkedIn says entry level recruiter, right? But I get LinkedIn messages from people who have 15, 20, 30 years of experience. And it's like, that's not going to
Mm,
be my wheelhouse, right? So maybe you need to be searching lateral recruiter or, senior manager level recruiter, right? Being specific with your searches, and then two, I think sending a message, right? I get a lot of LinkedIn messages where we have no mutual connections. I don't know how you found me. So tell me how you found me. Tell me what it is that you're looking for. So then I can respond to you and say, like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I actually can help you out. Or, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I actually do not have any knowledge of that. I'm not probably not the best person for you. I think those things help because otherwise it's like, who is this person? What do they want from me? And so making that as easy for recruiters to discern as possible.
that is wonderfully said. And I just want to, double down on that a little bit more. When you are reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, it is very important for you that if you are looking for a particular role and you want this person to help you out with a referral or you want a recruiter to help you out, you want to make sure you've done your research, right? You have looked through their career portal, you've identified a particular opportunity that you're interested in, you have updated your resume to make sure that it aligns with the role that you are looking to be considered for. And then you reach out to the person saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. In most cases, you can even apply to the role if you're looking for a recruiter to kind of support you in the process. Apply to the role, get the requisition ID, right, application ID, and share with the recruiter that actually is aligned to whatever it is that you're looking to do, right? Whether you're an experienced professional, you want to get, a recruiter or look for a recruiter that has or that focuses on experienced professionals, right? If you're an early, careerist getting out of college and looking for a job, you want to make sure that you have your early careers recruiters, right, that you are going to be interacting with. But regardless, identify the actual job opportunity that you're looking for and then reach out to them so that it's easy for them to go into their system, pull out find the information, right, find the actual job posting, and escalate the process for you. Of course, there's no guarantee, and I quite frankly think that there really isn't, they're not obligated to respond to you or help you out, right? So if you can make the work easier for the people that you're reaching out to for help, um just make it easier for them, and it would create a lot of opportunities for them to say yes, a lot more quicker than if you don't. So just something to consider. All right,
100%.
so let's talk about once folks are done with an interview, right? So you submit your application, you've gotten a response from the recruiter, you've had an opportunity to have your interview. What do you think people should be doing once the interview is over to stand out in this current market?
Yeah, this is a good question. Well, let me ask you, what have you done past jobs to stand out, whether it's winning clients or, at the end of an interview?
I love that. Okay, so what I would typically do is I love getting personal with folks, right? Like during the interview, I must have asked you a personal question, right? To allow me to get to know you a little bit more. Typically, I'll do that at the very beginning of the interview, right? So just like getting on a call with someone and Tiffany, the picture, the beautiful painting behind you, that will catch my attention. And I would ask you a question about that. Where'd you get this painting from? This is beautiful. What made you select this painting? And we would have that conversation initially before we even dive into the conversation. If you're someone that loves sports, I would say be careful with certain things like sports, because not everyone is into sports, right? But my default is look at the environment and ask them a question based on what I'm actually seeing, or asking them about their day. What was so special about their day today, what stood out today in their day, and through that, whatever they're sharing, you get some insight. That is very important because that is something you can use in your follow-up, right? So after the interview is done, I would reach out to the person, right? And this is something I actually do even while I'm working right now in the firm that I work at now, is I get on a call with someone for the first time and I just learn something. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? Just something about them that you can use in following up in the next conversation. Similar approach. Follow up after the interview in a message, whether it's an email, if you have the email address, or on LinkedIn, right? Just saying, hey, really enjoyed that conversation. Really appreciate it. You mentioned maybe one or two technical things that you all talked about, right? And then also give a compliment on something that you saw in their background or something that you all talked about that you all shared in common. I think that's a great way to be memorable. I think another thing is some people send messages, but I've also found it interesting to send a video, a quick mini 30-second clip just saying, I just wanted to get on here to just thank you immensely for the opportunity to chat with you. And again, share the same things you would share in a written message, but in a video. That would also make you stand out because in your mind, you're going to be like, who is this guy or this lady that sends me a whole video, expressing how grateful she was to connect with me? I think those are some things that you can consider to do.
I don't even think I need to answer the question. I think you did it. I think that is 100% what I would say. That is the advice I give, right? Like, what's something that you talked about in the interview that you can call back to in your follow-up
Mm.
communication? I am a sports girl. So, when I'm looking at somebody's resume, I'm like, how's this team doing we're in college football season. How's this team doing in college football? Or what's going on in the Boston sports world, right? Like, what can I call back to? Or things like that. And so this picture's from Cuba. My best friend got it for me,
There
right?
you
So
go.
like those are the things that I would say. And then I've never had anybody send me a video, but 100% I would rock with it because if they're doing in-person interviews or even several virtual interviews, you have to assume you're not the only person being interviewed. So it's a great way for them to remember your face as well.
Hmm.
Like, oh, who was Charles? Oh yeah, he sent me a video. Of course I'm going to remember. So anything that you can do that shows that you're just as invested in them as they should be in you, right? Like if you're interviewing with somebody and that person's going to be your manager, you're going to want to make a good impression immediately, right? And so finding those things that you can come back to is exactly what I would say.
Let's talk about personal branding. So we talk about applying and really putting ourselves out there as we prepare and apply for various jobs. How important is personal branding and I would say online presence, right, in landing a role in today's market?
Yeah. I think, well, first, I think your personal brand is important. I mean, if we think about jobs that do reference checks, right? What is somebody going to say about you? That is 100% part of your personal brand. And so, thinking about your network, again, I am a huge believer in your network, your community. And so, personal brand is huge when you navigate the job market. As I mentioned, I like to be a bridge and I like to do that in my personal life and in my professional life, I think that authenticity is something that people are always going to resonate with. People can always tell a genuine person versus somebody who's just kind of, showing face for whatever reason. So personal brand is huge. Online presence, I think it's one of those things that it's like, if you're going to do it well. If you're not going to do it, don't do it at all. Right. And it's funny because like I'm on LinkedIn all the time. And I can tell when somebody is like, oh, that person's about to hit the job market, because that you start getting all those notifications like so-and-so graduated from college. And it's like, I graduated with college with that person. So it's like, I can tell that you're cleaning up your LinkedIn. And so we all start somewhere. So if you're starting, hey, start off on your best with your best foot forward. But I think it's like something that you've got to continuously maintain, something that you've got to engage with people. And so it's okay if like you don't have a LinkedIn, if like that's not your thing, but if you're going to have it, put the time and work into it that you should.
What will turn you off looking at someone's LinkedIn page
That's a
as a
tough
recruiter?
one. I don't know. I think it's funny because like I said, am on LinkedIn all the time and I love it. I think it's great, but it's also social media at the end of the day, right? And so
That
it's
is
like when
true.
you think about an Instagram or like a Facebook or a TikTok, it's like the same things that are annoying there would probably be annoying on LinkedIn. But I think also kind of when this is what I kind of don't like when people don't understand the point of LinkedIn as the professional social media site. Like sometimes I see
Mhm.
things and I'm like, probably better off for like another social media platform, right? And so I think that ability of reading the room virtually, I think that's when I'm like, oh, probably wouldn't have posted that here. But I think it's fun. I think I've seen people be funny. I've seen people, share like deeply personal things. And so it's just one of those things that you've got to invest and put the time in and read the room like you would in person.
Would that be a determining factor for you on whether someone gets hired if you were comparing 3 people or 4 people and you happen to also look at their LinkedIn page? Would that be a determining factor to say, actually, I'm not going to go with this person because of what I saw on their page?
I have never made a hiring decision or suggested a hiring decision based on anything that I've seen on LinkedIn. I will say if somebody is being completely disingenuous on LinkedIn and that comes to my
Mm,
attention, it's something I would definitely flag for a hiring manager like, hey, these things aren't lining up. But again, that could just simply be a case of Tiffany hasn't updated her LinkedIn in 4 years and it says that
mhm.
she still works somewhere, right? So it's like, again, maintain it. But I don't think that LinkedIn is being used in hiring decisions as far as unless it's an integrity issue, not
I
a
see.
I didn't like this person's profile picture, so we're not going to hire them type thing.
Yep, absolutely. Good to know. Now, what I will say as well, in addition to what you've shared, is that as much as you want to make a great impression when people see you in person, it is the same thing, right? Online. Think about it as how are you controlling people's perception of you online, right? If you do not want to be represented or known for something um, in person, then replicate that online, right? If you want to be known for something, whatever that is, right, and you want to showcase yourself as a professional, as someone with integrity, as someone that can be trusted by business partners for those who that want to pivot to start their business, or by a company that is looking to hire you, then make sure you have that representation of yourself appropriately online, so that you don't deny yourself opportunities that you would have gained if because of whatever it is that you posted, or because of how you present yourself online. Definitely very important to keep in mind.
I got a
um
question for you.
sure.
What's your personal brand and how does it show up on your LinkedIn?
Wow, beautiful. So there are 3 things that I like to define myself in 3 ways: passionate, purposeful, and faith-led. Right? Passionate because I deeply, when I say yes to something, right, I put my all into it, and it shows through the results that I get, right, through whether it's the work that I do, or for instance this podcast. So I definitely pour in my all into whatever it is that I decide to do, and that passion definitely shows. Purposeful in the sense that I'm very intentional with whatever I do, whether it's things that I say or actions that I take. I definitely give it a thought, right? Because That's something I would also expect from people around me, is be intentional and purposeful about the actions that you're taking. When you are, pursuing a particular opportunity, you're just not pursuing opportunities for today. You're building a legacy for yourself. You're building security for yourself and potentially your family if you decide to have one. So, what decisions am I making today to better position me for success and position my family for success? Understanding that I am just not representing myself as a person. I'm representing everyone that knows me, right? And everyone that associates themselves with me, including my family. And faith led. God is at the center of everything I do, and I hold it very close to my compass, and something that directs my decision. So I would say those are the three things that I stand for, and I I,
Wow.
I would hope that when people interact with me, they feel that. I mean, that's what I'm hoping. You
I,
tell me, because we've worked together in some ways. So,
no,
what do you see?
in every interaction, I have seen just that. I mean, wow, like second to none, really. Like I've seen you exhibit that passion. I've seen you, kind of work in your purpose, and then also just like share that with people. So I agree, it's working.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that. What are some of the practical advice or pieces of advice you would give someone right now who is getting interviews but no offers?
Yeah, that I think that's the tough place, right? When you're getting interviews and you're not getting offers, I think the first thing that I would say is understand that it's likely not personal, right? It is a very competitive job market, especially when we think of time of year right now, right? So you've got those new graduates that just graduated in May that are still on the job market. You've got the people that have been laid off or are just kind of looking for a different job right now. So it is just an incredibly competitive market. So I would say don't take it personal. One. Two, I would say where you can ask for feedback. I know that a lot of places don't necessarily provide feedback for various reasons, but where you can, if you can, ask for feedback, see what's happening. And then three, I would say practice your interviewing skills, because interviewing, like anything else that we're talking about, is a skill, right? And so I say practice in the mirror, practice recording yourself on your phone, understanding all the things that you're kind of doing in the process, right? Everything from the words you choose to use. Like if you struggle to pronounce a certain word, but you keep using it in interviews, maybe change that word, find a synonym for that word. Are you using your hands to the point that it is a distraction in your interviews, right? Or are you not kind of vibing off the body language, right? So this is something that I try to look for when I'm interviewing is what's that other person's face doing when I'm talking? Are they nodding in agreement? Are they smiling, right? Like what's happening? Because you can kind of course correct in an interview. But then I also tell people don't start self evaluating in the middle of an interview, right? When
Mhm.
you're being like this with someone, let it flow, let it happen. And then after is the time to evaluate. Because if you start trying to self evaluate in the middle of the interview, other people can tell, right? Like I can tell that, oh, this person is starting to drift in their mind and they're
Mm,
shifting away from the purpose, right? And so, and then in practicing, finding a way to get your answers as concise but as thorough as possible. So I've been in interviews where I'll answer the question and they're like, "Wow, you answered that question and my follow-up question," right?
mm,
So if you're getting interviews, you're also probably at this point comfortable with the types of interview questions being asked in your industry.
mm.
So understanding those, understanding the format of those, um, yeah, I could probably go on, but I think that's really the tough spot of getting the interviews and not landing the offer, because there are just so many other factors likely outside of your control happening, as well.
Awesome. So I'm going to summarize some of these things. So you said,
Please.
do not apply for applying sake, right? Be intentional about
Absolutely.
what you're applying for and ensure that your resume actually addresses what has been requested for. I know some people are using AI tools right now to mass apply. If the AI tool is not adjusting your resume, or and you're not reviewing it to verify that whatever it is that you're submitting as part of your application actually addresses the basic qualifications, you will be denied. There are no two ways about it. So definitely keep that in mind. Two, you said don't take it personal, right? So regardless of what happens, don't take it personal. Just
I
course
recently
correct.
watched, yeah, I recently watched an interview and the person was like, detach from the conclusion, right? You're not
Mm,
in control of the conclusion. You're in control of, did you dress appropriately for the interview? Were you prepared? Were you on time? Did you feel like you delivered your best? Then that's what you can do. You're not in control of what happens after that. So detach yourself from the conclusion, apply because you're qualified, you believe you're the best candidate, you believe you're a good fit, and let everything else run its course.
ask for feedback. And this could be anyone, correct? This could be your colleague, other professionals that you might have in your network. Any additional thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you can, like if that recruiter calls you and says like, "Hey, we're actually going to move forward with another applicant," if they can share to say like, "Hey, if you don't mind sharing, is there anything that I could have done better, improved on in the process?" Some people will tell you, some people will not. I've been at places that have policies around what they can share as far as feedback, and
Mm,
again, 9 times out of 10, it's probably something out of your control, right?
I
Like
see.
it's something like that other person has XYZ skill. But if you're like, man, I had that skill, then you know next time that you want to articulate that and highlight that.
I see. Practice your interviewing skills. Get your responses concise but still comprehensive. I think that's something that will require a lot of practice, is being able to concisely provide a response but still be comprehensive enough that you touch all that needs to be mentioned to give you, the best chance.
Yeah, the interview method that I've seen, the STAR method. So, situation, task, action, result. What was the situation? What was your specific task? What were the actions that you took? And then what was the result of those actions? Framing your answers in that way will allow you to succeed. I've also seen SBI, situation, behavior, impact. Same deal. Format your answers that way.
Beautiful. As we round up this episode, I like to ask some questions that would just get people to, um, if they leave this conversation with nothing else, hopefully they're able to leave with this. When you think about your career journey getting you to where you are today, what would you say are, some of the experiences, or at least one major experience that contributed to the mindset you have today? Because you're a very driven person, you're very energized. I can feel the excitement and the passion that you have for the work that you do. And right now, as people struggle with finding what's next for them, a lot of people are going to be wondering, do I pursue my interest? Do I just pursue what I need to pursue to make money? Right. But all of this is mindset. And in some cases, you need to tap into the experiences that has gotten you to where you are today to be able to move forward, right? Regardless of the challenges you're facing. So my question to you is, as you think about where you are today and the mindset that you have today, what are some of the experiences that's helped you get you to where you are today?
Whew, that's a good question. I think I'm gonna give my piece of advice and then I'm
Mhm.
gonna break down the experiences. So I think my piece of advice would be actually heard this from a person at my last job. Do the next best thing, right?
Mm,
So if you want to have a job where you get to publicly speak, okay, cool. Maybe that's not jumping right on, ESPN tomorrow. Maybe it's take that job as an admissions counselor because they get to publicly speak at schools and they get to travel and right. So, like, okay, that's your first step. And then you get to continue to do that. And then maybe you get on bigger stages, right? Because as people see you do that one thing, they're like, oh, actually, you can do that, and then you
mm,
go to the next stage, right? And so through doing the next best thing by a idea that I like a job where I get to publicly speak and I get to travel, great, I'm going to find ways to do that. And I think that, you know that has opened doors for me because, again, I'm huge on community and my network. People have suggested jobs to me. People have suggested opportunities within those jobs to me.
Mm,
And that's what's really going to help you. So do the next best thing and rely on your community to help you get there.
beautiful, beautiful. State and complete the sentence. I have a principled mind because.
I I have a principled mind because I am dependable and I do what I say I'm going to do.
Mm, I am dependable and I do what I say I am going to do. That is beautiful. For everyone listening, this is Tiffany Daniel. I want to say a huge thank you for spending the last hour with us. If you're out there listening, I just want you to know that you are capable. You are capable, right? Do not believe that because of everything you might be going through, or you know someone might be going through right now, that they're incapable of succeeding in whatever chosen career they are pursuing, right? Just know that you're probably going to have to change your strategy a couple of times until whatever it is you're pursuing clicks. And finding a job might not be the only option for you. This might also be the time for you to start thinking more intentionally about what the next years of your career would look like. And it might be starting your own opportunity, creating the opportunity for yourself. And I'm probably going to have another conversation with someone that has actually decided not to pursue a job, but then use this opportunity to think about, a business that they would want to start. So do not discount that, because again, you are capable enough to have gotten the jobs you've gotten up to today. And you have done the work to build skills, right? Leverage those skills, rely on them, trust them, and believe in them, because they will take you far, depending on how you decide to approach it. And then again, like I said earlier on at the beginning of the episode, if you have a resume that is ready to go, on the description of this podcast conversation, you would notice that an email has been included. Just send your resume to that email with a short description of how you intend to make an impact in a chosen role of your choice, and just share one or two roles that you're already interested in, right? What type of work you're interested in. We're going to take some time to review that information, and maybe share it with our network, just in case there might be someone in our network that is interested in the skill sets that you have. Again, to everyone joining and everyone that has spent this last hour with us, thank you so much for being here and joining us in our first live show. I really hope this was beneficial to you. If you have any other questions, again, just send the questions to the email. But Tiffany, it has been a joy spending time with you. Any last words for us before we adjourn?
I just want to echo what you've said. If you're listening and you're going through it, just know that you are more than capable. You have done hard things. You can do hard things, and you'll get through this and come out even better on the other side. So thank you so much, Charles.
Absolutely. Where can people find you?
Oh, people can find me on LinkedIn. It's Tiffany Daniel 22 on LinkedIn. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Cool.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.